Hey, moneymakers, welcome back to another episode of Taking Stock Live. I'm Kalila Reynolds, and we're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. So as you know by now, Donald Trump won the presidential election, the US presidential election last week, and that sent the markets into a frenzy. We also saw Bitcoin passing the $80,000 mark for the very first time in history. So what does all of this mean for you and your money? What should you be doing right now, and what can we expect over the next 4 years of a Trump presidency? We're going to be talking about it, but first I want you to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the video with a friend, because we've got a lot going on, a lot we've got to talk about. And of course, let me know in the comments where you're joining us from, what part of Jamaica or what part of the world, because we know we have the money makers all over the world. Now, here's a look at what's coming up in tonight's show, followed by what's hot in business. And of course, come on, let's get this money. On this episode of Taking Stock, U.S. stock exchanges soared to record highs last week after Donald Trump's victory in the presidential elections. What will Trump's second term in office mean for investors? Plus, PriceSmart may be opening a new location soon. And are unit trusts a good way to diversify your portfolio right now? The analysts will discuss. The committee managing businesswoman Rita Humphries-Lewin's affairs has formally withdrawn allegations of misconduct against investment firm Cornerstone and Barita bosses Paul Simpson and Jason Chambers. The committee said that in light of additional information and documentation, they're withdrawing all allegations of misconduct. Last year, Cornerstone, Simpson, and Chambers were accused of taking advantage of Barita founder Rita Humphries-Lewin during the purchase of the company. The committee, led by Humphries-Lewin's husband, apologized to Cornerstone, Barita, Simpson, and Chambers. Trinidad's RBC Royal Bank says it will slash the monthly limits for personal and business banking clients from $7,500 US to just over $6,000 US starting December 1. Credit card holders' monthly limits will be further reduced from $6,000 to $2,000 US. RBC has reduced the Forex limits on its credit cards by 73% this year. The news follows Scotiabank Trinidad's announcement that it's slashing the U.S. spending limits on its credit cards. Trinidad is dealing with a Forex crisis, resulting in the government and financial institutions rationing U.S. dollars. U.S. stocks surged last week following a decisive victory for Donald Trump in the U.S. presidential election. The Dow Jones soared by over 1,500 points on Wednesday to close at a new record high. It's the first time the index has gained more than 1,000 points in a single day since November 2022. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ also reached new highs. The S&P surged by 2.5%, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ index closed nearly 3% higher. The U.S. dollar also had its best day in 2 years on Wednesday, and Treasury yields also rose. Meanwhile, Bitcoin hit a new record on Sunday, surging past the $80,000 mark. The cryptocurrency was already on the rise during the run-up to Tuesday's U.S. presidential election. It rose sharply on election night after it became clear Donald Trump would win, and has continued rising in the days since his victory. Bitcoin is up 90% this year. The crypto industry believes Trump's victory is a bullish sign for Bitcoin and other digital currencies. Premium experience is really the best that Money Mission has to offer. Not only do you get to connect with all our money makers and benefit from live mentorship with me, you also get access to all our premium courses, including all the upcoming courses and updates at no additional cost. I'm talking our best-selling Investing for Beginners, Build Your Budget, Debt Do-Over, Money Marketing, and Small Business Systems. After a year in premium, you'll be set on your journey to wealth. You'll have your annual budget done, a plan to pay off your debt done, your first investments done, And if you have a business or are ready to start one, you'll have all your systems in place and a proper marketing plan done. All of that for one low cost. If you were to buy all of these courses separately, plus pay for the basic membership, you'd be paying nearly $5,000 US. But I'm giving it to you for one low annual fee. So, are you ready to accept the mission? Click the button below to get started. Welcome back. So let me see who we have in the house this evening. We got Captain Parky saying airport fire present. Thank you for your service, Captain Parky. Deshaun tuning in from the grill. We've got David, the man from Mobay, St. James. Big up the money movers, the money makers. Sean is in St. Anne. David says, let's get this money now, please. We have Unbothered Chico there in Clarendon. We have Ricardo in St. Martin. We got Simone in Maypen, Raquel saying good night from Kingston. Who else do we have in the house? Glamour checking in from cool Portland. We got Yashika all the way in Scotland, as in the UK, Yashika? That's Scotland, or is there a Scotland in Jamaica? Because I feel like Jamaica have a everywhere, especially from the British heritage. Earl is in Helshaw. Malik is checking in from Massachusetts. The listener is straight out of Canada. Yashika says, yes, the Scotland in the United Kingdom. Chad Anthony says he needs this money and he's tuning in Portmore. So, and we have Flip Cash in Manchester. So like I said, Manchester, Jamaica, or Manchester in the UK, because you have little UK all over Jamaica as well. We also have Delish in South Carolina. So good to see everybody on. Well, as you know by now, if you don't know, you've been living under a rock somewhere. Donald Trump has secured his second U.S. presidential victory, and he is due to take office in January. And the markets have been reacting. The markets are like, yes, we like this. And if you tuned in last week, some of you didn't because you were busy watching the results of the election. But if you tuned in last week, you'd know that Julian Morrison, one of our analysts, he called it. He was like, we need a Trump presidency. A lot of you disagreed. He also believed that Trump was going to win, and he was right. Trump did indeed win. So since then, like I said, the markets have reacted. You saw it in What's Hot. You're going to see even more of it later on in Market Recap. The US dollar is up. The stock market is up. Bitcoin is up. So let's talk about it. Joining us tonight, I have one of my new friends, one of my FinCon friends, certified public accountant in the US, Saint Billings is joining us. And we're also joined once again by David Rose, our OG analyst, business writer at the Jamaica Observer. Welcome, David, and welcome for the first time, Saint. Great to have you.
Nice, Saint. Night, Kalila.
Happy to be here.
How's everybody doing?
All right, for the most part.
So, Saint, we're going to start with you since you are new to the show. Just introduce yourself for us and tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Saint. As you mentioned, I am a CPA in the U.S., licensed in Florida, and my background is in tax. I have a tax expertise. I started working with one of the top 4 accounting firms, and I've been with them for 10 years, and my career continues. So I have been looking at the tax proposals very closely throughout this election season.
And just to give a little bit more background on you, you are of Haitian descent as well.
I am. So Haiti's in the house.
Haiti in the house as well. Sac passe.
Yeah, Nampule.
Awesome. So you have an interest in this whole conversation also from an immigration standpoint. But we're going to talk economy tonight. So as we heard in What's Hot, the U.S. markets have reacted positively to the Trump victory. Why do you think that is?
Well, I'm sure many people have talked about it before. While the campaign was still going on, when it comes to the money part, Trump has been a businessman, right? So he's been looking out for business owners. And so when we think about the stock market, some of the policies that are in place under his campaign, one of which is reducing capital gains. So capital gains is generated when people hold assets for more than a year. So that's people investing in the stock market, and it's a incentive set in place so that people are not quick to buy and sell, that they buy and hold. So the highest percentage that they would tax prior to what the proposal is was 20%, and Trump proposes to bring it down to 15%. So that's really attractive. So I can imagine why people are looking to get in the market and really looking to stay invested, not just putting money in and quickly taking it out. So that is one of the things. I know there's more things that you want to cover, but that for one is something that specifically would keep people interested in getting involved in the market, and they haven't yet, and or invest more.
And there were talks that his opponent, Kamala Harris, actually wanted to increase capital gains. Was that true?
Yes. So part of the campaign that she ran on, keep in mind, I do mention that none of those things are set in stone until they've been voted on, right? But part of the proposal is that she would be increasing the higher bracket for capital gains. So on the other hand, Trump proposes to reduce it. So people are super excited about that. Another thing, and we'll get into it, net investment income tax. So that was an additional tax for those high income earners. So there's a specific, if you're earning 125,000 or more as a single filer, or 200,000 or more as married filing jointly, or head of household, and 250 or more for married filing jointly. If you were in those brackets, then there was an additional 3.8% tax to any investment income that you would bring in. And Trump proposes to remove that tax completely. So that is another thing, versus Kamala, who proposed to have even more tax based on the higher income individuals.
So when people reach the conclusion that Trump is good for the economy, or Trump is better for the economy than Kamala would have been, or that Biden has been, would you agree with that?
I think it depends on where you fall in the line, right? So some people said that the Trump tax, it benefits the high earners. Really, I think there's room for any business owners to take advantage of this, right? And it's really being a part of the game. Like you mentioned, who wants to make money, right? Now you know the rules, you can play into it and make sure you take advantage of it. So it depends on where you fall. If you are an individual, low income earner, you don't have any business, and you're not eager to grow or like invest or do other things, I can see how you will be at a deficit, right? And that economy, or in some ways, right? There are certain things like child tax credit. He proposed to also increase that to $5,000 for anyone, versus Kamala's plan was $6,000 if the child is less than 1 year old, $3,500 up to 3 years old, and then $3,000 later on. Versus Trump, later on in his campaign, he proposed to have that at $5,000 for all people. So it really depends on where you are, and you can take even more advantage of it the more you look at the rules and learn how to become a part of the game.
Absolutely. You got to learn to play the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So David, let me bring you in here. What are your thoughts on all of this? We've been talking about it for the past few weeks, months actually. What are your thoughts on a Trump presidency?
To be honest, Kalila, we're all making more money, so I cannot complain. Like, I don't even have to open my portfolio nowadays. Like, I literally just open my phone, 9:30 kicks in, and I just see all of these, alerts. So, oh, this stock has gone up by this amount, this amount, this amount. And I'm like, all right, back to bed. So, what you found in the last week in particular is that asset owners have become a lot richer. And this is coming on the reduction in interest rates, or as you would say, the other part of the economic cycle. So you have two things at play. You have Trump, who has a different economic policy and stance under the Republican Party, which is the Democrats, and you also have the ongoing reduction in interest rates. Now, remember, guys, rate cuts take time to percolate through the economy, but it does indicate that the cost of financing will go down. And that means that asset owners will be likely to actually take on more venture activities to capital. So the reaction to the Trump presidency is really coming from the perspective that, hey, you heard both sides of the debate, be it Democrats and Republicans. Saint mentioned a while ago that Democrats wanted to increase the capital gains taxes, which would be a disincentive to sell assets. And we're now seeing the Trump side, which is looking to create more efficiency in the US bureaucracy of government, and at the same time introduce policies that are encouraging for business owners and asset owners. So someone pointed this out to me and I was like, wow, I didn't realize this. So for those who do understand, the net profit you see on most companies' financial statements, that is usually an accrual net profit. What does that mean? It means that you have things such as unrealized gains and fair value gains that are added onto that bottom line. However, it's not taxable income. Taxable income is literally cash, and if you're not earning cash in context, then you cannot tax that income. Someone pointed out to me that basically the US tax code, about the first 100 pages, is actual tax code. The remaining thousands of pages is literally policies that are designed to encourage certain behaviors. So what do I mean by that? So in Jamaica, we, for example, have a junior market. That encourages companies to improve governance. That encourages companies to list and grow and contribute to the tax pool and increasing the labor pool. We have the Urban Renewal Tax Act, which GK has benefited, through the development of their headquarters in downtown. So you have tax policies that are designed to incentivize certain behaviors because of the economic impact it will have on the surrounding community or environment. Now, we haven't seen all of the potential proposed plans that are being proposed for the tax code. But one thing I can remember that in the USA, the Trump era tax cuts are set to expire next year. Now, if those tax cuts are not renewed, a lot of people have a higher tax bill unless this was an income to spend in the economy. That's not necessarily good for anyone in particular, whether you be a low income earner or high income earner. So what they potentially decide to do on those income tax, changes will be pretty significant to many people because when you think about it, when the government might not just spend in the economy, but the government doesn't have an influence on every part of the economy. What do you mean by that? So you're a small town business, let us say you're a community of 1,000, 2,000 people. When the government, says, hey, you can keep money in your pocket, you can spend more money in your local economy and everybody's happy. But when the government takes more in taxes and decides to allocate to different parts of the country or economy as they desire fit, you're a small town that might not benefit as significantly. So these potential proposed changes in tax code and just overall economic incentives to do certain actions will benefit business owners and investors, and we're all better off as a result. Because as someone pointed out to me, which I find very strange and insane, so I think someone said Tesla is up like 75% in the last 2 months, and I'm like, wait,
What's
are
up
you serious?
75%?
Tesla.
Tesla.
I
Oh,
found it
wow.
strange, but it's not.
Strange.
It's
With all
actually
the money that Elon's been throwing behind the campaign. Maybe not.
Kalila. Tesla was at $180 around August, and you're telling me less than 3 months later it's at $350.
Yeah, that's not strange, given that Elon has been so publicly supportive of Trump and has put his eggs in that basket. And the market was theorizing that Trump would win, and therefore theorizing that Elon will benefit and Tesla will benefit as a result of his public support of the Trump campaign. So
And
I consider rationale
I'm
behind
not
it.
surprised.
This
and
Saint's not surprised either.
Trump actually appointed Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. So they're looking now to actually cut down on excessive government spending and bureaucracy, which is interesting because we should remember that I think it was Moody's that changed their outlook on the US, economy, because the US is basically, I think, almost 100% debt to GDP. And Trump is, along with Elon, are saying, hey, we need to cut back on spending and, rein in the budget because the USA is running a pretty heavy fiscal deficit. And the truth of the matter is, as Elon pointed out, it's not sustainable. Something has to crack. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that the parental government efficiency actually plays out, and how that all those extra savings are potentially redirected towards the economy. Because at the end of the day, money that is not spent has to be redirected to or somewhere else, and where that will go potentially might go to tax cuts or other proposed changes.
So over on Instagram, we have a comment. I Love Kingston says, everything sounds great until job cuts come. Saint, do you believe that Trump policies would lead to potential job cuts? Because I feel like it would be the opposite.
Yeah, high level, I think I agree with you that it would be the opposite because there's not this force on increasing low income wage or things like that, like tips. There are so many benefits even to the regular worker, the server. There are so many benefits to that. I guess what the person is saying, who are the people investing? Those are people who have jobs, right? And to that point, I can hear what that person is saying. Now, does that mean, are we assuming that the market is heading toward a way where jobs will be cut down, that the average person who has those high earning jobs will no longer be working? I doubt so because those benefits, those people, they're not about to start making the money, right? The money's already there, and it's will they be investing it in the U.S. market or not? Some other things that I wanted to pinpoint regarding
Ah, we lost Saint, unfortunately. But I want to come to this. Ah, there she is. She's back. We can't hear you, though. We're not hearing anything. I don't think she's hearing us either. So I see a comment here from Roswell, which is a very interesting comment. Roswell says, so David, I'll direct this one to you. Roswell says, I see a lot of selling off in our local stock market. I summarize individuals are looking to the USA equities markets. Have you noticed that? And do you think that is the reason?
Not necessarily, Kalila. So, two things to remember. If you want to get cash, you have to sell your assets. And as a result, if the market is there and there are actual persons willing to buy your shares, you're going to sell. Because while persons might say, you can go to the bank and get a loan, at the end of the day, if you need to get your cash immediately, you're going to sell your stocks on the market. And the truth of the matter is, you might have been seeing, for example, the dollar sale yesterday and today, pretty significant transactions, but that's just one stock. If you look at the broader market since August, you know, we've seen a lot of equities actually increasing value. So we're seeing Carrier share at $11.50. We're seeing Scotia share at $48. We're seeing, for example, Carrier trading at $73. So a lot of the broader market is actually trending up again, as rate cuts take effect. And the truth of the matter is, while the US market does offer, better returns due to the diverse range of options you can take to monetize different events, the reality is for some persons, it might not be their, cup of tea. Because even if you're to, let's just say, move somewhere up to US markets, you still need to have a strategy that actually works for you to make money. Unlike in Jamaica, where you can say, all right, in the month, this stuff will go up in value. I can, get in or out at this particular price. In the US market, it's so much more dynamic. You have shorting, you have, covered call strategies, you have so many different approaches. And the thing is, you can jump onto a stock as it's rallying and you get so distracted by the gains, you forget that you need to potentially sell and take some profits. So I don't necessarily think that there's a lot of money moving towards US equities market, but at the same time, you might be seeing more money moving towards US dollar denominated assets. What do you mean by that? So Jamaica is about 40% plus denominated in foreign currency as per our banking data through deposits, for example. So if you look at most of these new properties that are being advertised, they may advertise in US dollars. They're selling to in Jamaican dollars at the end of the day, but the reality is that some persons right now who are actually putting their hard currency into assets they feel comfortable with that are going to relatively hold their value, because as we're currently speaking, the dollar is at 159.20 as average selling rate. While that is the average selling rate, you do have some commercial banks that are selling a dollar at 160 to 1. So I'm not going to say that, some persons might not be taking their money to the US market from the JSC, but it is still not necessarily a major probable event because you only have like interactive brokers as an alternative to enter the US market because for the most part, Jamaicans cannot actually enter the US market with other brokers.
So now that we have Saint back, I specifically want to direct this question to you, Saint, because last week on this show, one of our analysts, Julian Morrison, theorized that Jamaica is going to benefit from a brain gain. I don't know how familiar you are with some of the issues in the Caribbean, being a Haitian immigrant yourself, but traditionally we have suffered from brain drain, which is our educated population leaving to go to countries like the United States. But according to Julian, with a Trump presidency, there is a lot of fear amongst the immigrant community, and some of those people may be returning home. Have you observed that amongst your own community that people are talking about going back home? Although I know it may be different in Haiti because of the
Yeah.
political turmoil going on there, but what conversations have you heard around people maybe wanting to leave the United States for somewhere else because of a Trump presidency?
Honestly, as a side note, we're more likely to come to Jamaica than to go back to Haiti right now. Um, um, so I'd say this. I think the fear was, if we're talking immigration, is that some people would be deported. There's fear of this mass deportation. Um, are those the people necessarily that Trump is trying to get to keep investing in the country? Let's think about it, right? Trump wants the money to stay in, right? Now, this is not defending Trump. I'm not pro-Trump or anything, but we want to make it clear. Trump wants the money to stay in. Will they be deporting the major investors in the country? Likely not, right? So as far as like those people who are in the high net worth brackets who are of Haitian descent or Jamaican descent, this is a time where they're getting comfortable to start investing. Now, when we start thinking about social views and other things that may be of value to those people, abortion or whatever things that people held really strongly to when it comes to their values, they feel as though they may not want to live in such a society because of fear of what will society, what will interaction be like. But when it comes to finances or the people who are the brain drain that we're concerned about, they're likely investing in the country, and I don't foresee them running away from the opportunity to make the most of that economy should the opportunity be offered to them.
I see one of our FinCon colleagues, Tiffany Grant, moved to Jamaica recently. She is of Jamaican heritage. I think her parents are Jamaican, and she moved. She'd never lived here in her life, and she moved a few months before the election. And she wrote an article on it, which is now blowing up because apparently there is a lot of sentiment, especially amongst people of color, about living in the United States under Trump.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Especially, there's this fear of what will life be like, and it's not necessarily just because of Trump, but it's for the Trump supporters out there. They feel very strongly, and some of them have been emboldened to act more, I guess, more obvious or more menacingly than they have done in the past, and so that fear is there. If those people do find other, and this concern or people moving, migrating out of the US, that has been a trend for the past few years, actually. I have many friends who moved to Costa Rica for different reasons, way of life, and some people wanted to move out if Kamala wins, also concern of like how they're going to raise their kids. So this, I think it's more partially is the values, but the other part is that's a trend also. People are looking to make money in the US and live in an area where the cost of living may seem lower. So I think it's a mixture of that, and not just the fact that Trump becomes president.
Being digital nomads. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So, final question is for David. David, we're running out of time. So, this question comes from Limitless Podcast, who wants to know, do any JSE stocks stand to benefit?
it's going to be lagged. And let me tell you why. So you're discussing that point a while ago about, migrants, or I should say, remember the diaspora moving back to, their home countries. So someone in the banking sector, we one of the large two banks told me that, hey, when Trump won in 2016, you had a lot of fear. Fear drives opportunity. What happened? a lot of the persons in the diaspora were like, hey, if Trump actually, does some of his outlandish things as they believed, then they might not, have a home. So you had lots of persons in the diaspora who are buying back property in Jamaica as what you'd call their safe shelter. So what you ended up finding was that North Coast, some parts of Kingston, persons were just buying up properties just, as their backup opportunity. So right now, if that fear does return, and persons do feel a little bit of apprehension, and they say, "Hey, if I want a piece of the rock and I have somewhere to go home if Trump does support me, then what does that mean? It means that that the real estate sector is going to feel a nice uplift in the coming 2 3 years, as persons are like,
Mm.
"Hey, I need to have a place in Jamaica as a backup in case anything." So in that case, you're talking about the banks that are going to benefit. You're talking about Carib Cement. And then when you think about it for a second,
The
as
the
we see,
REITs, the
as we
property
see,
companies, KP, maybe
KP REIT
proven.
isn't in
Uh,
residential real estate, neither
mhm.
Stanley Matter, and 130 just student housing. So I'm just giving the examples that go along, Kalila,
Church
but
Rock.
remember, Kalila, also the flip side, which is if some of these Jamaicans do end up getting deported or come back home, then remittance, which is our largest FX earner, might take a little pinch. So there are multiple dimensions to actually look at this whole dialogue. But the truth of the matter is, fear does your opportunity, because if it is the case that persons are going to buy more property in Jamaica, and let us say, for example, some of them actually take the route of becoming digital nomads, they're going to contribute to the local economy. And where they do concentrate, it's opportunity for some persons to benefit, because I've seen, CMB international features where persons like we used to live in, let's say, North Carolina, we're spending like 2 3 grand a month in their monthly expenses, come to Jamaica, go on the grill, and when they spend that grand a month, it comes like nothing to them. So if you do have that level of fear, not just something there into the diaspora, but also persons from overseas into that mindset of I don't like what I'm feeling, I come to Jamaica or the low cost meditation at Jamaica, you're gonna see more aggregate, demand in consumption and just other opportunities, because during COVID, a lot of Black Americans came to Jamaica because they felt some level of comfort. Now, let's just say we actually are able to capitalize in the tourism space in attracting more of those persons, down here for their vacation. That benefits tourism space, Dolphin Cove, your CPJs, your Sinkos. So it's just a linear path in terms of, the way forward in terms of what is going to benefit in JC side, because Trump hasn't taken office as yet. Key
But
point as yet.
on the flip
January
side,
20.
On the flip side, Roswell, one of our viewers, makes a good point. Roswell says companies doing business in exporting to the USA will have tariffs on their goods. So let's not forget about this 20% import duty that Trump is proposing. Uh, how does our local manufacturers, or how will our local manufacturers who want to do business in the USA manage having that additional 20% import duty on the goods
Co-manufacture.
that they're looking to? What was that?
Co-
Co-manufacture?
no, like the reality is that as much as persons are going to be like, hey, Trump is
Wait,
going to kill the economy with the tariffs, the truth of the matter is you have Chinese businesses that are literally setting up shop in Mexico right now to take advantage of USMCA, which is a free trade agreement between Canada, USA, and Mexico. The ship goes into the US to be sold. So the reality is, if a company like a Westinco can, co-manufacture some of their goods with the same recipe in, let's just say, Georgia or somewhere along the northeast coast, and they still, maintain a relatively decent margin, they're fine. And the reality is, although tariffs being mentioned all this time right now, what will that actual tariff look like if it doesn't implement within the first 2 years? So we're having lots of persons, speculating on the future when it hasn't even arrived as yet. So that's a massive, reminder that hey, until Trump goes into office, and when things actually go through Congress, you have to watch and wait,
in
because I think Trump doesn't actually bring tariff until probably year 3. For the next 2 years, they're going to just be like, he's going to be tariff free. No, you actually prepare ahead of time. It does actually happen. But even in the meantime, you continue to export to make money. So we have to be very cautious about, just looking at some of the proposals that were made during the election campaign and look at, hey, if this does happen, how can these companies circumvent those situations or events to make money same way? Because at the end of the day, you cannot get the US market. It is still the largest market in the world for consumerism and Jamaica's largest external trading partner. So that's the truth of it.
So, Saint, are there concerns that this 20% tariff could lead to inflation in the US?
Yeah, that concern is definitely there. I do want to note the 20% is not across the board. It's he proposed a range from 10% to 20%. So the impact on the particular country will be determined by their relationship with the U.S. We know that the tariff is intended to be as high as 60% for China, and there's a specific, goal with that. The end all be all goal is that it's to decrease America's dependency on Chinese imported goods, right? So yes, the concern is there for inflation. If of course, if it costs those companies more to import these goods, the cost will be passed down to the consumers, right? However, I do want to note that it's not going to be 20% across the board for everyone. And the impact may vary from the service, from industry to industry and country to country.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, St. Billings and David Rose. David is going to stay on with us for the analyst segment. But thanks once again, St. It was great having you for your first time on Taking Stock.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So before we go to our break, let us do tonight's poll question. How do you feel about Donald Trump being reelected as president of the United States? These are your options. A, I expected it. B, this is horrible news. C, it's going to be good for the economy. Or D, other, just leave a comment. And you can take this poll over on X, owned by Trump's buddy, Elon Musk, or on the community tab of our YouTube channel. How do you feel about Trump being reelected president of the United States? I expected it. B, this is horrible news. C, it'll be good for the economy. Or D, other. You can leave a comment and let us know how you feel. Leave your answers in the chat or take that poll on X or YouTube. Up next, we've got your market recap and our analyst is standing by. Time now for your market recap. The JSE combined index was mostly flat last week. 125 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, November 8, 2024. 23 made gains, 58 lost value, and 14 stayed the same. 104 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $794 million. TransJam was the week's most traded stock, with 33 million shares changing hands. It started the week at $3.61. Wigton traded the second highest volume. The stock gained 1 cent to open Monday at $1.10. And Jamaica Teas rounded out last week's most traded. It started the week at $2.24. ISP Finance was the week's top gainer, up 36%. Jetcon had the second biggest gain, up 20%, and Proven USD rounded out the top stocks, up 16%. On the losing side now, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances was the week's biggest loser. The stock was down 20% to open Monday at $1.17, while 138 Student Living Variable Preference lost 15% and Epley lost 11%. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index was mostly flat last week. Massey was the TTSC's most traded stock. It gained 4 cents to open Monday at $3.69 TT. Prestige was TNT's top gainer, up nearly 7% to start the week at $10.75 TT. And on the losing side, LJ Williams B shares fell 26% to open Monday at 93 cents TT. Over in the US, stocks rallied after Donald Trump's re-election as president. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 both gained almost 5% last week, and the Nasdaq gained almost 9%. At the pumps, gas prices rose by 25 cents in Jamaica last week, while regular diesel jumped $2.90 and low sulfur diesel rose by $2.86. In foreign exchange, it took an average $159.20 Jamaican to purchase $1 last Friday. That's 3 cents less than the week before. Meanwhile, it took an average $115.16 Jamaican to purchase $1 Canadian. One British pound cost an average $206.56 Jamaican, and you could buy €1 for $171.16 Jamaican on average. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices cracked the $80,000 mark last week, trading at $81,922 US on Monday, while Ethereum prices rose 16% in 5 days, trading at $3,173 US on Monday. Not long ago, I asked how many of you would be willing to pay to watch Taking Stock. And a lot of you responded that you would pay, but some of you begged me to keep it free. And I get it. Everyone goes through financial challenges, and I want as many people to access this information as possible. So I've decided to give you the option to make a donation and help to keep Taking Stock free. Support us at patreon.com/Kalila Ray. The link is in the description.
Disclaimer. This is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analyst, is brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Welcome back. All right, let me see some of your responses to the poll question. How do you feel about Trump being re-elected president? See, Marty says, I expected it. Most of you have chosen A. Marty says, I expected it. Philip says, excellent news. Oh, wow, Philip. Okay. Raquel says A. She expected it. Life Root says A. That was evident. Sean says, Trump represents everything USA, so I'm not surprised. Honestly, he barely lost the 2020 election. You could say he's the first president to win 3 elections. You could say that, Sean. And then Philip wanted to know how the JSC is getting affected. We spoke about that, Philip. I guess you joined a little bit late, so you can go back and watch that a bit later. In terms of, all right, so I'll take these other comments later on. Let's welcome back David to the show. Welcome back, David.
Hey, Kalila.
So we were talking earlier, well, you may have seen it in Market Recap and also in What's Hot, about the NASDAQ. So PriceSmart is one of the companies that is listed there on the NASDAQ. Jamaicans here would be quite familiar with PriceSmart locations here. The company recorded $1.2 billion in revenues just in the fourth quarter. So PriceSmart globally is a pretty big company. And now they've announced a new location in Guatemala. So when I saw this news, I was like, another PriceSmart in Jamaica? Okay. But it's actually in Guatemala. So tell us more.
So PriceSmart is operating in particular, PriceSmart is in Latin America and the Caribbean. So for those who remember, Costco, USA only, PriceSmart, Latin America and the Caribbean. I guess you can say it's an unofficial agreement, but yeah, Latin American Caribbean. So PriceSmart, membership warehouse, you go ahead and get goods in bulk, you pay your membership fee, which is what makes most of their core profit, and you get savings, by buying in bulk with PriceSmart. So the company would have opened its 50th location in April 2022 in Portmore, Jamaica. They, opened a new location in Cartago, Costa Rica earlier this year. That was their 55th location. And they're now planning to open a location in Quetzaltenango in Guatemala in spring of 2025.
In where, David?
Quetzaltenango.
I was teasing you.
But yeah, so there we're going with the 56 locations. And the thing is, we've seen, persons, receiving reports in Jamaica, related to the municipal corporations that, PriceSmart's next destination really is supposed to be in Montego Bay. They had proposed something in 2020, but COVID came, and then we're hearing that PriceSmart is planning to propose to go to Iron Shore. But the truth of the matter is, Jamaica is PriceSmart's best performing market in the Caribbean segment. Now, I can't bring the numbers for the Caribbean segment right now. I can try to bring it up in the meantime, but basically, Jamaica the best reported growth for the most recent financial year of 12.2% increase in growth. Kalila, remember that the Jamaican economy was quote unquote slowing down this year. For PriceSmart to say, hey, Jamaica was the best market, growing 12.2% on net merchandise sales, it tells you that we did something pretty damn right. I was spending our money in PriceSmart. And the thing is, because we're spending so much money in PriceSmart, they're like, wait, these Jamaicans actually love us that much. And the former location is performing a lot better than expected.
Well, I think it also makes some level of sense because people may be theorizing that, well, PriceSmart is presumed to be a discount place. You buy in bulk, and so you get your savings by buying in bulk. And so if the economy is doing poorly, people will be looking for more deals, and then places like PriceSmart would benefit. I presume that would be the logic here.
Well, you have to also remember that before PriceSmart opened their location in Portmore, the Redis location was getting so much traffic already. Still get traffic today, but your person's rushing from Montego Bay, Clarendon, wherever to Kingston. With that Portmore location now, you have a convergence of traffic going into that specific location, such that Paramount is actually expanding their Portmore location as we speak. Remember, they opened this location in April 2022. And less than 2 years later, they're ready to expand the location to accommodate the growing traffic that is going to that location. That should speak volumes, about the value that Paramount is in Jamaica. And they're also, looking at ophthalmology. Was ophthalmology, or I believe it was respect to the ears, audiology center at one of the locations. So they set out a value here. And the thing is, in the Caribbean in particular, the segment reported $1.35 billion in revenue for the 2024 financial year, and also reported operate net income of $77.98 million. Now, if Jamaica's standout economy, when you have Domrep, when you have Trinidad and other markets, it does see that we, are spending pretty well and it's continuing to grow. The price market itself, might have seen a 11% growth in revenue up to $4.91 billion 2024 financial year, and also a 28% increase in net profit to $130 million US. However, the stock did fall about 8% the day after earnings came out. Why? So in the Q4 segment, in the Q4 report in particular, Paramount have been affected by negative events in the prior period, such as a tax settlement basically, and analysts and the market are expecting Paramount to deliver higher returns. However, so it went from like $90 to $83 in one day. However, following the Trump presidency, an announcement, Paramount, like every other boat, has gone back up to 90. So as you would say, bad report, based on analyst expectations, stock goes down. Trump comes in, we didn't remember that. Back to normal. So it's pretty interesting. And one of the things I like about PriceSmart as a company, apart from being a common consumer staple business that you can buy on the NASDAQ, is that it actually gives you an insight into the rest of the region and developments happening in those markets. What do you mean by that? So in Trinidad, we've been hearing more and more about this FX issue, such as Scotiabank Trinidad and Tobago. I did not say Jamaica, I said Trinidad and Tobago. They are restricting their customers from doing FX transactions overseas come December 1 with their debit cards, and cutting the FX limits on their credit cards from $5,000 US to $2,000 US. PriceSmart Trinidad and Tobago, at the end of August 2023, had about $18 million US. As you would say, TT equivalent in currency, they couldn't really convert to US dollars. that rose to $60.3 million US at the end of August 2024. So almost more than a 3x, increase in just cash that cannot leave the country. And this is coming from a periodic high of about $100 million US, equivalent in TT, in August 2020. So because I get that instant from PriceSmart, I know, hey, the situation that is very grave. PriceSmart actually even closed their recycling plant in Trinidad last year and took a loss on it. And they're even remodeling their Portersville location, but the fact that they're stuck, with that much money not able to leave the country, it tells you how bad things really are. And they
Wow, they're
even pointed out earlier that
reevaluating. Because I was just going to ask you, how does a large company like PriceSmart deal with that problem? They are
so
considering closing that location.
so actually for most people don't seem to realize in Trinidad PriceSmart has 4 locations, not the 2 like Jamaica. But to give further context, PriceSmart has had to devise what I'd call cunning strategies to get money, or I should say US dollars, to pay their bills. So they actually have had to actually export, let's just say water, for example, to other markets, probably other preference markets, just to get USD to pay their bills. They have actually sought Canadian dollars, euros, other tradable currencies, and then convert to US dollars to pay their bills. So they're doing everything, putting everything into the toolbox or to their hat, just to ensure they get US dollars to pay their bills. Because at one point during COVID, between 2020 and 2022, Paramount was actually restricting imports in Trinidad and Tobago because of how bad the FX issue was at one point. So with this continually tightening the Trinidad and Tobago market, I would not be surprised if in the coming months you're going to see Paramount say, hey, we're going to start restricting some more imports in Trinidad and Tobago, just because it does not make sense for us to bring these goods in and we cannot pay our bills with our own company operations money in Trinidad and Tobago.
Beetle had a question earlier. So I remember we reported on this a couple of years ago about people trading on the Trinidad and Tobago cross trading the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Beetle wanted to know, is Trinidad still purchasing foreign currency in the Jamaican market? Not Trinidad. I think what he means is Trinidadians or people in Trinidad using that situation, taking advantage of that situation. Have we seen
that? Is correct. So let me give 3 quick context points, right? Because to the time. So basically, for one, the BOJ stopped accepting TTD over the counter last October. So that route of just carrying TTD to Jamaica, giving to BOJ to get Germany to then convert US dollars, that route is gone. However, what you have tend to found instead is that persons are using the TTSE. For those who don't know, you have companies like Grace Kennedy, JMB Group, NC Financial Group, are listed on the TTSE, Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, and the JSE, Jamaica Stock Exchange. They will, buy those shares on the TTSE, transfer it through an inter-CFD transfer to Jamaica, sell it on the JSE to get JMD, which should then convert to USD to pay their bills. Then you also have persons, who will find other means, such as, doing payment in kind. So let's just say I need to pay, somebody a particular bill. I will instead, go to, let's just say, one of their own clients, but that same supplier, do a service for them and use that payment that liability with the other clients. So Trinidad are still finding their ways to Jamaica to get USD, because in Trinidad, Chakalila, it is very disgusting what I'm hearing. Imagine you go to the bank, you have US dollars in your account, let's say you have $1,000 US. You can only get $200 per day in Kalila. And the thing is, you have to bring evidence to get your own money. So imagine you have to bring a plane ticket to say, hey, I am flying out to the country, I need some USD. I'm like, all right, it's $200 here. And you have to go back the next day, probably a week, to get your entire $1,000 US. And the thing is, that's also subject to allocation limits, meaning that unless you are, let's say, someone who the bank would not want to lose, basically hire a client, you're probably going to stuck at the back of the line, waiting just to get your USD allocations.
I know exactly how it works, because listen, it's a very similar situation in Belize. We have a fixed exchange rate at 2-to-1. If you want to get USD from the bank, you have to, well, not necessarily, it's not exactly the same, because if you have a USD account, that's different. But if you're trying to buy USD from the bank, You have to join a lot. You have to get there early, first of all. There are allocations for the day. If they run out, you just have to come back tomorrow. There's a certain amount you can get unless you know somebody who knows somebody at the bank. It's a lot. Even trying to send money. Like if you go Western Union, you have to line up early as soon as they open because there's certain currency restrictions. And now Trinidad is experiencing the same and probably worse. So
And think
we
about it, Kalila.
actually wanted to have this as a main discussion tonight because the situation there is getting pretty dire. We're going to follow up next week. We couldn't make it happen tonight, but hopefully next week this becomes our main discussion because a lot is going on.
And one more thing, Kalila, I was going to mention it. PriceSmart has pointed out that, in Honduras, their central bank are started to actually limit US dollar outflows in that market as well. So PriceSmart is about 20 million dollars US equivalent of Honduran lempiras that can't leave the country right now. So because I follow PriceSmart, I get a better insight into the rest of the region's developments without having to be an economist myself. And that's the beauty about, company listed on the NASDAQ, NYSE, or any global exchange. They reports on Jamaica. They give you an insight into, the entire market space. So, players saying, hey, we're looking to rebound heavily in Jamaica come next year. We're getting ready for the winter tourist season. New Fortress Energy, which supplies LNG to Jamaica, is like, hey, if it was for Jamaica, we would not be here today. They, were praising Nigel Clark, and the central bank, for managing depreciation, fiscal management, unemployment going down. You have Campari, which says, hey, Jamaica needs to continue growing further because they're fourth largest, business, or market, ahead of Italy and other markets. And I can go on and on different companies that actually list on the NASDAQ or NYSE that in Jamaica and tell you, hey, Jamaica is that place to be. And it's just good to kind of see these stories because it tells that Jamaica is in the right direction and we can profit from it, by investing in the JSE, NASDAQ, or wherever.
So despite the challenges with PriceSmart in their Trinidad and Tobago operations, do you see PriceSmart as a potential buy because of its growth in Guatemala and the Jamaican market, etc.? Bearing in mind, of course, this is not investment advice.
To be honest, it's to be a hold, and it's really coming down to that major risk associated with Trinidad and Tobago and Honduras. Because while Barbados, for example, has a pegged rate, and they would have to manage the amount of FX coming in out of that market. That is not a material market in the whole grand scheme of things. But with respect to the Trinidad and Honduras, if you're talking about $100 million US equivalent that can't leave the country, and your total cash balance is about $200 million, $204 to $50 million US, that's a problem. And until that situation can alleviate itself between Trinidad and Honduras, especially Trinidad, I would not, feel comfortable, taking a larger position in PriceSmart until these risks are alleviated. Because you open a new store in Guatemala, and open more stores in El Salvador and whatever, but that Trinidad risk is pretty real and it cannot be ignored because if the friction does tip it in Trinidad and Tobago, then you're going to have a massive, reduction in reported revenue and profits as well. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that input, David. We're going to take our final break and come back with your comments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analyst, was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Move aside, Santa Claus. Santa K is coming to town. Oh, yeah. Our Christmas giveaway show is back this year, and you can be a part of it. Get your business featured across all my social media platforms and spread some Christmas cheer on our live show. Only 10 businesses will have this opportunity, and it's first come, first serve. So email us at business@moneymediaja.com for more information. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.
All right, so let's see these final comments. A lot of opinions going on here. So Rob said, buying up properties and crowding out the average Jamaican. That was in response to David talking about, Jamaicans coming back home. U.S. expatriates coming to live in Jamaica. So Rob said they're going to be buying up properties and crowding out the average Jamaican so that Jamaicans can't buy a home. Nigel Phillips says, how long will the U.S. market rally? What goes up will eventually. So yeah, we'll take a look because the world runs in cycles. In the words of the one named Richard Spice, the world is a cycle. Things go up, things go down. Let's see how long the market will rally. Roswell says Seprod companies, GK Food, Jam Teas, Alaska, for example, they want a part of their profit to be coming from the USA, talking about that discussion as to who will benefit, which Jamaican companies could potentially benefit from Trump policies. Sean says the main concern is the economy. That's why Trump won, reminding me of, which presidential election was it? And the famous quote, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, issue number one. Roswell again. Roswell hitting the nail on the head tonight. Roswell says most businesses in America depend on Chinese goods imports. So will these businesses keep much staff even with rate cuts by the Fed? All persons doing business, watch your profit margins. Kabil says the advertisement by the Democratic Party was just not it. They never spoke about anything that mattered. They rather decide to focus mostly on minuscule social issues such as the LGBTQ community. And abortion was a big one. I know that that's a minuscule social issue. Even LGBT issues, not necessarily minuscule, because a lot of people feel very passionately either way on that issue. Roswell says, I suggest those who have US dollars hold on to it. Well, for the most part, people who earn US dollars or have them have been holding on to it as precious commodity, whether you live in Jamaica, Trinidad, or anywhere. Lanesra wants to know, what is Trinidad doing different from other Caribbean countries for them to have this FX issue? Hopefully we can delve deeper into that next week on the show, because that is a lot of factors behind it. Sean says the solution is to sell your services to earn USD. That's part of the solution, Sean, because if you earn USD and it's being deposited to your USD account in Trinidad, you can't get your money. That's a big part of the problem. So even if you're earning USD, you have to have a US account in the US or in a different country and access your money via that account. Because if that money goes to Trinidad, you can access your money. Even if you're earning your own money, you can't get it. So Sean says Barbados has strict capital controls to maintain the currency peg as well. LE says PriceSmart says, will PriceSmart ever be a part of the Jamaica stock market? I highly doubt that, because they're listed on the NASDAQ. They are a multinational company, and so that's where they see their future. Let me see if anything else is there. Nigel saying it was Clinton. Yes, Clinton was the one who made that comment. It's the economy, stupid. Philip says commodity price slump in Trinidad. So that's one of the reasons for this US dollar situation. They have been overly reliant on oil for the past several decades. And now that oil prices are sliding, they are facing this crunch because they're not earning the same amount of US dollars as they have been in the past. Biff Midge says the US market rally is still strong. Well, it's only been a few days, Biff Midge. Simone says, great conversation. Thank you and your team. Thank you for tuning in, Simone. What else we have? Biff Midge says, buy Costco, not PriceSmart. Interesting observation. And Roswell saying, can the BOJ pump more USD in the market? I believe not. Watching the reserves, weak legs. There's still a lot of reserves. I don't even know how much it is. Last I saw was like $5 billion in reserves. But yes, the BOJ has been intervening quite heavily in the market this entire year. So the only reason we're not at 160 yet, we continue to creep towards that 160 mark. The only reason it hasn't hit 160 is because the BOJ has been intervening, has been pumping that foreign exchange into the market to keep that price relatively stable. So we've gone from, I need to do a deeper dive on that, like what has been the overall slide in the value of the US dollar. Here in Jamaica, this year. So maybe that's something we can look at next week. Hopefully, if we do the Trinidad and Tobago discussion. We see if we have any final comments. Just one from Roswell saying, nice show. Thank you. Kish saying, good evening, everyone. All right. So thank you so much for joining us yet another week. It was my pleasure to have you. Thank you so much to St. Billings, our special guest for this evening, and to David Rose for joining us again this evening. As you saw in one of our ads, Santa K is back this Christmas. So if you want to get a promo for your business, just email business@moneymediaja.com to get a quote for Santa K promotion coming up in December. Also want to encourage you to support us on Patreon. If you haven't done so just yet, hit us up at patreon.com/Kalila Ray. We appreciate your support. We need your support. We are 5 years strong and we want to make it to another 5 years. So patreon.com/Kalila Ray. Thank you to all the people who have made a donation and have been supporting us, not just by saying you support us, but by putting your money where your mouth is. Also subscribe to the newsletter at KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter, or you can go to getmoneynews.com, getmoneynews.com to subscribe to our newsletter. That's it for this week, guys. Make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with a friend, leave a comment, helps us with the algorithm, all that good stuff. And remember, you can also get a free download of the Money Dictionary at themoneydictionary.com. We have a link in the description box. Turn on those post notifications so that you can know when everything is about to drop. Follow me on all social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere, LinkedIn. I'm at Kalila Ray, KALILAHREY. And remember, I only have one account on each platform. So if you go on TikTok and a bunch of different people start following you, claiming to be me and DMing you, that is not me, that is a scammer. Please block and report that page. If you want to connect with our analyst this week, that was David. His contact information is in the description box below. I forgot to ask Saint how we could follow her. Let me see if I can find Saint's her info. I think it's in the description as well. But you guys can follow Saint Billings, SAINTE Billings, on social media as well. She's a good follow. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again next week. And until then, let's get this money.
Let's get this money.